Howdy, y'all. This is Dooster, Cryptids and Critters Paranormal. I got a little story I want to share with you. This happened in Robertson County back in the early 1800s. It was an unsolved murder, and I call this one Dressed to Kill. The pair of strangers rode slowly and deliberately, heading north along the well-traveled, deeply rutted road. Smartly dressed, they traveled in silence, with the woman staying 3 or 4 lengths behind her male traveling companion. A young black and white spotted pup trotted alongside the woman, occasionally running off into the undergrowth in search of game, only to emerge moments later to rejoin the troop. Judging from their clothing and sharp appearances, one would be inclined to assume that they were en route to a wedding, quite possibly their own. The man was attired in a dark suit, complete with ruffled shirt, string tie, and a matching hat. His black leather boots were well polished, except for the dust that had accumulated that morning during his travels. He rode a bay mare and sat tall and proud in the fine English saddle. His female companion wore a long blue dress, trimmed in white ribbons, and her long brown hair was adorned with a silk bonnet. In her hand she held a bouquet of wildflowers, having picked them at their last rest stop beside Honey Run Creek. She rode like the lady that she was, sitting side saddle atop the buckskin mare. On reaching the ford in the middle of Red River, they dismounted and allowed their mounts to drink from the cool, clear water. The pup also lapped up his fill, then trotted off to explore the riverbank, flushing an occasional quail and giving chase. His barks echoed up and down the hollow, and soon he returned to rest at his master's feet. After a short rest, the strangers again climbed into the saddles and continued their trek northward. Several times they had to steer off the road to allow a wagon or a stagecoach to lumber by, turning up a thick dust cloud as it passed along the deeply rutted Louisville and Nashville pike. Farmers laboring in the fields stopped their work to gaze at her beauty, tipping their hats and nodding as they passed. Some could not help but wonder why this strange man was riding so far ahead of her, as anyone would have been very proud to ride alongside this vision of loveliness. They stood and gazed as the couple rode on out of sight, then returned to their chores. Just a couple of strangers, that's all they were. Nothing more, nothing less. Early the next morning, the same man was seen riding south along the same route. This time, he was leading the buckskin mare, and atop it was an empty side saddle. He was alone, except for the spotted pup, who continued to accompany him. He rode along at a slow, steady pace, and gave no visual indication that anything was amiss. He was just another stranger passing through, and soon he was forgotten, as so many before him. Several weeks went by, and life around the small community of Malloy went on as usual. Bryant Thornhill awoke early one morning and proceeded to the hen house to collect the eggs. As he walked down the well-worn path, his old dog came out of the brush, dragging a mutilated arm in a hand. On searching the thicket, he discovered the mutilated remains of a woman. There was not enough left to identify, as clothing and bones were scattered over a wide area. It was assumed she had been murdered and just left there, where wild animals devoured and mutilated her body. Thornhill summoned the sheriff, but there was not much to go on. No attempt was ever made to identify the woman or her killer. Her remains, the torn arm, Her blue dress, silk bonnet, shoes, and strands of her long brown hair were buried in the Piper family burial ground, marked with a simple wooden cross. The cross marker has long since rotted away, and the exact location of her grave has faded into obscurity. Several questions remain unanswered. Who was this lady? How did she meet her demise? Who was her traveling companion? No one alive today knows the answers, and it is a mystery that will remain unsolved until the end of time. Like I said, this was a murder that occurred in Robertson County in the early 1800s. No one was ever arrested for the murder. It's just one of those unsolved murders. So I hope you enjoyed this. Y'all kind of subscribe, like my channel, Cryptids and Critters Paranormal. And I'll be back again soon with some more history lessons. Until then, stay safe, have fun, and we'll catch you later.